Before we start, I want to talk about something for a minute. Valentine's Day is meant to be a time to show the people around us that we love them, and I have no issue with that. I mean, let's be real, we should be celebrating the people we love every single day, not just one specific day of the year. But that's besides the point. I've never really been a big Valentine's Day person. I usually keep things pretty low key, not because I dislike it, it's just not something I feel the need to put a lot of effort or pressure into. One thing that's been on my mind lately is how much businesses use holidays like this to push us to buy more stuff. Sometimes it feels almost like trickery, like we're being told that spending money is the main way to show love. And I've started asking myself, why does it make sense that I have to give companies my money to prove that I care about someone? Something that's really shaped how I think about this is the idea of love languages. Quality time, acts of service, receiving gifts, physical touch, and words of affirmation. Over the years, my husband and I have realized that acts of service mean a lot to both of us. When he makes me a coffee in the morning, it brings me more joy than any store-bought gift ever could. And for him, he's told me that he really appreciates when I run an errand for him when he's low on energy. So this year, I wanted to share how I'm celebrating my love for him through an act of service. By tailoring his shirt, I'm saving him the time, effort, and money of having someone else do it. It's a small thing, but it's one of the ways I show him that I love him. And maybe this inspires you to do something similar for the people you care about, whether that's tailoring or mending something if you're a sewist like me, or simply paying closer attention to the love language your loved ones speak. I'm going to show you how I tailor men's t-shirts. These shirts are a little bit too big for him, so I'm just going to walk you through how I take up the shoulders, slim the sleeves, and slim the body just a little bit. So let's get into it. First, I'm pinning the shirt to match his fit preferences. We work together to figure out how much to take in, starting with the shoulders. The shoulder seam should ideally sit right at the shoulder bone, though you can adjust this depending on whether you want your shoulders to look narrower or wider. Right now, the seams sit a little too low, which makes the shirt look baggy and not very flattering, so we're bringing them up just a touch. Instead of pinning directly on the seam, I'm pinching the fabric slightly above it until the fit looks the way we want. In the end, I measured about 3/4 of an inch that I wanted to move the shoulder seam up. Next up are the sleeves. I'm pinching along the inner arm seam. We're not going for a super tight fit, just slimming it slightly. And yes, I'm trying very hard not to poke my husband with the pins while doing this. I'm pinning as close as I can to the armpit area and naturally tapering down to meet the existing armhole seam. The armpit fit is already comfortable, so I don't want to make it any smaller than necessary. On the other end, we're not adjusting the cuffs, so I'm tapering the seams down to meet the cuff as well. At the widest point, I'm taking in just over an inch, and of course, I had to move around a little bit to make sure the sleeve still feels comfortable. Everything looks good, so let's keep going. Now we're shortening the sleeves slightly since they're just a bit too long. We're not removing the cuffs, so instead, I'll raise the sleeves from the top. I'm pinching the fabric just below the shoulder seam to figure out how much to lift it. Even after adjusting the shoulder, we still need to bring the sleeve up about another inch. And finally, I'm taking in the bodice. For this shirt, it makes the most sense to adjust the side seams. If I didn't have to alter the shoulders or sleeves, I could probably get away with adding back darts, which is much simpler. But since the sleeves are already coming off, it makes more sense to fully deconstruct the shirt and do it properly. Just like with the sleeves, I'm tapering the side seams so they flow smoothly into the armhole and the bottom hem. In total, I ended up taking in about 1.5 inches on each side. One last fit check from him and we're ready to start sewing. So I need to raise the shoulder up by 3/4 of an inch for the sleeves, and this is gonna be about 1/2 inch. So let's do a full inch. For the sleeves, I'm gonna start off by marking it using chalk. And then I'm going to unpin it. Now when I was pinning it on my husband, I tried to make sure I was pinning it at the seam as flat as possible. So now we roughly have a line here, and the idea is I want to make sure that we meet it with the armpit and the cuff. My biggest measurement is about 5/8 of an inch. I'm using my French curve here. I don't actually know if I'm using it correctly, but I just want to kind of curve this line into the armpit naturally. So this is essentially where I'll be stitching. Now for the side, I'm doing that same exact thing. And then I want to gradually make this line meet the armpit. And then also meet with the bottom hem down here. So now that we have that all marked out, I think I'm first going to pick the sleeve and take it off of the shirt. So unfortunately with this one, it's actually glued down. You see that? So I might just have to cut the shoulders off. Now for cutting it, if you have to cut it like me, start in the armpits where it's going to be more hidden, and you want to cut as close to the seam as you can. I'm gonna see if I can pick this or if it's the same sort of glued situation. It's a little bit easier, so I might just unpick it. My plan is to give myself about 1/2 inch of seam allowance. So I'm gonna mark 1/2 inch. Or actually, I'm gonna match where it is in the armpit right here. So it's gonna be about 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm gonna pin it so that these are even with each other. And then I'm gonna cut along that line that's 3/8 of an inch away. And try to do it in one strip. I'm basically gonna use that as a template for the other side. And I'll take the other side, pin it so it's flat. And so I'm gonna take this that I cut off. And now the sleeve should be even. Now we know it's going to be a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so I'm gonna go ahead, flip them, and pin them. So I got them all pinned, and now I'm gonna sew with a 3/8 seam allowance. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of those layers, probably the one with the glue actually, and trim that down a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is fold the longer seam allowance to the red line. And then I'm gonna fold it a second time to hide that raw edge. And then I'm gonna pin it down so that it's flat. So you can actually press it again at this point. And now I'm gonna stitch it down so that it catches that folded seam. So here's how it looks so far. I don't think that's too bad. And it's closed up on the inside as well. So the next thing I need to do is raise the sleeves up by an inch. So remember we cut along the seams, so it's just going to be an inch from the edge here. The thing about sleeves is that when you shorten it like this, it makes the hole a little smaller. So for instance, the original seam sits at 10 3/4. And then if I measure right here, it's about 10 1/2 now. So we don't want to necessarily make it smaller. The other thing is that we're inherently going to open up the hole more on the bodice because we need to raise the sleeve length. I hope that made sense. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm actually gonna move this point a little lower, and I think that should do the trick. I also think we don't necessarily need to do the entire full inch. Like, it wasn't that long, so I might adjust this a little higher too. So something like this. And then I want to see how big it will be. So this is gonna put us at 11 inches. So that's a lot better, I think. And now that's just for the front side. I'm gonna flip it around and do a similar thing. And we want to make sure that this line meets up here, 10 1/2. And then we also want to meet it down here. So I'm just starting with that 1 inch, and then I'm adjusting accordingly. So it mostly follows that 1 inch line, and then just changes shape a little bit over here. And then when you open it like this, you want to make sure these lines line up, and like this. So see how it's a bit like pointier? I don't really want that. So I'm gonna change that up a little bit. And so that will make the armhole a little bit bigger. So now when we cut, I want to give myself 1/2 inch this time. So that means we need to be 1/2 inch from the line we want to be at. Actually, I'm gonna do 5/8 of an inch. I'm just gonna ease it out into here, the cut we already have. And then now I'm gonna cut it along there. Again, let's keep this in one piece so we can use it for the other side. Let's copy it for the other side. For the shoulders, I want to raise it up, how much did I say? 3/4 of an inch. So let me mark that. So I don't want to continue this 3/4 of an inch all the way to the bottom. And so what I'm gonna do, actually, here's what I'm gonna do. Just kidding, not doing the shoulders yet. I'm actually gonna do the side seams. So for the sides, what I'm gonna do is cut along here as best as I can. So I'm gonna give myself maybe like 3/8 of an inch. I'm gonna take this from the other side as well. I'm actually just gonna cut the sliver right here. And the same up here. I'm basically just going to redo this entire seam, making sure I make the bottom even. So instead of what I was doing before with the sleeves, I'm just gonna do a French seam and then fold it in wrong sides together. So let me pin this first. So now I have them pinned wrong sides together and I'm gonna stitch them. So going back to the sleeves, I want to raise the shoulders by 3/4 of an inch. Because it was glued there, I think I want to chop that off too. So I might actually just go along there. This will also make the shoulder a little bit bigger. So right now, the front side wants to be about 11.5. It's only about 10.5. I think I need to maybe lower the armpit a little bit. I think I'm just gonna cut there. I just realized I only want it 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna dry fit the sleeve. Hope it fits. So just like I did with the sides, I'm going to do French seams. Here's how it looked before. And here's how it looks now. I'm happy to report that my husband really likes the new fit. For this, he never reached for this shirt when getting dressed for work, and now he's already worn it a couple of times. I will say, there's something a little terrifying about taking apart a perfectly good shirt and reconstructing it. There's always that risk that I might ruin it. But honestly, maybe this is your sign to start sewing. It's okay to mess up, it's okay if things aren't perfect the first time, and it's okay to try something even when there's a chance it might not work out. I can't say this tailoring job was perfect, but it was good enough, and I'm so grateful to have a partner who appreciates the skills I do have and trusts me to take on projects like this. So here's our little reminder this Valentine's Day, or any day, maybe try making something or doing something meaningful for someone you love. Happy Valentine's Day! Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.